Welcome back to FordeeTV. I'm your host, Fordee. Man, it's been a while since I've made an audio tutorial, and today we're talking about sound design inside Ableton Live, taking a couple samples that you get from some sample library and creating a banging kick. Well, it must have been a while because this is take number 3. Anyways, let's jump right in. In the first two audio tracks, and by the way, if you're not using Ableton Live and you're using Logic, etc., or Pro Tools, well, first off, why? But then technically this is gonna work the same. You're just gonna have different menus, etc., and maybe different audio instruments and effects. So first and foremost, I have two tracks loaded. They are two different kicks I've gotten from sample libraries. I'm gonna audition the first one for you. You'll hear how that one sounds. This one is, I selected it because of the sound of the beater. Kind of has like a white noise sound. It's quite nice. The second one I picked because of its low end. So I think combining these two together is going to make something pleasant. Let's create a new MIDI track by going up to Create and selecting Insert MIDI Track. Alternatively, we could have pressed Command Shift and T on our keyboard and it would have done the same. Next, I'm going to come over here to My Instruments and select Impulse. I'll drag it into the MIDI track. You'll notice it's loaded down here, the Instrument and Effects section. I'll take the first kick, I'll drag this down here, and I'll take the second kick and I'll drag it into the second position. The thing I'm going to point out here is in the second kick, you'll notice on the tail end of that sound, it has something that I don't like. Almost like, I don't know, an echo or... So let's tighten it up. We can come over here to the decay, drag this down a little bit. Almost gone. Maybe too much. Yeah, that sounds much tighter. Maybe even like a little hair there. That sounds much tighter. It doesn't have that tail end that I didn't like. Sweet. Next thing we can do is by double clicking right here, we can create a 1-bar clip that we can then draw information in. I have the audition or the headphones off, so I'm not going to hear when I double click here, and I create these two triggers for the impulse. I'll highlight, whoops. Press Command Z to undo that. I will highlight both of these by drawing a selection around them. I'll press Option on my keyboard and drag them to the second beat, in the bar, right? I'll notice that this is not snapping. I'll press Option on my keyboard, drag this over. I'll do the same thing over here. And if we want to get cute, let's put them right here as well. I'll play this for you. Well, that's starting to sound a little bit spicy, right? We can come back over here into the impulse and we can change the velocity or the volume of each of these notes. Let's drag this one down a little bit. Maybe something like that. Next, what we want to do is create a tone. But before we do that, actually, let's go to Audio Effects, drag an eq'd into the impulse happening after the impulse. What I want to do is get rid of any possible ghost frequencies or mud around 30 Hertz. I'll select the first EQ point, set it to 30, I'll drop the gain to -15 and set the Q to 0.1. This is going to get rid, and if I play this right now, even though I've got great studio monitors, you're not going to hear this too much, but in a really amplified system, this is going to clear up any possible mud. This is with, again, without. You shouldn't really hear too big of a difference, or if anything, but it is clearing up any possible ghost frequencies and mud. Next, I'm going to go ahead and create another MIDI track. Remember, I press Command Shift and T on my keyboard to do so. I'll come over to Instruments, and inside Instruments, I'm going to look for Operator. I'll drag Operator over into this track, and I'll turn off B, C, and D. Just having a trigger. I'll set it to fixed. I'll change the frequency to 80 Hertz. And now what I'm doing, if I press a key on my keyboard, is I'm triggering an 80 Hertz tone. I'll turn off the filter because we're not going to use it, and I'll create a 1-bar clip by double clicking right here. Then I'll scroll down, and because we have it set to fix, it shouldn't actually matter what note we set it to, but just out of habit, I'm going to put it on C0. I'll drag this out to be the length of the full bar, and then I'll come back to the effects section. Here in the effects section, if I just play this, I'll turn this, I'll turn impulse off here, come back to Operator. If I just play this, all it's doing is playing that note consistently. We want it to be triggered when the kick is triggered from the impulse. To do so, we need to come over to Audio Effects and select Gate. When we drag the gate down right here, we want to click on this arrow to expose the sidechain section of the plugin. We'll select sidechain, we'll change the audio input from to impulse, and now what we're doing is we're telling the gate to trigger every time the sound comes from the impulse and to trigger the gate. And what a gate does is basically lets frequencies or sound pass based on whatever threshold and return settings you have set. I'll go ahead and play both of these for a second. And it looks like somewhere around here. I'm just stopping this because I'm listening to this on headphones as I record the tutorial, and it's quite loud in the headphones, just because I want to hear what I'm doing. But I'll play it again. Oops. Maybe somewhere around here, right? So I might even, I'm gonna leave that stuff there. So the next thing that we're gonna do, we have a tone coming in here from the operator. That's that real sub low end. It's at 80 Hertz. We want to glue these puppies together. So let's select the track impulse, press shift on our keyboard, click on the operator track, and press Command G on our keyboard. That will group the tracks. Now that I have a group track, I can come over here to Audio Effects, select compressor, and drag it onto the group. What I'm going to do is use the compressor to be the glue, if you will, to glue these puppies together. I'll put the ratio to 4:1. And since this is a kick, technically we could even go slightly higher, but I don't think we'll need it. We'll drop the attack down, we'll set the release to auto. And then we're gonna look at the threshold here, and as we drag this down, we're looking to get 5-6 dBs of gain reduction. So maybe something to that effect. You'll notice we're coming in a little bit hot, but that's fine. We can come over here and adjust, maybe dropping this down a little bit. Now, inside the impulse, this is the fader that's controlling both of those. If we want to affect the levels of each kick, we have to do that within the impulse plugin. But we can change how much of sound we're getting from the impulse and how much we're getting from the operator before it's compressed here. That's starting to sound good. I know we're peaking over here. We can adjust levels later. But before we finish and call this a day, I'm going to drag an eq'd right here, and I'm going to accentuate some of the things that will make this kick sound even better. So the first thing I'll do is make sure the first EQ point is selected. I'll set this to 80 Hertz because we decided that was the frequency from this kick, right? I'll pump this up maybe, I don't know, 3, and I'll leave the Q 3 dB, and I'll leave the Q set to the default. Next, what I want to do is give it a little air. I'll select the 4th EQ point here, and I believe when I did this, it was around 5-6 kilohertz, and all I'm looking to do is go up by maybe 2 dB. I'll leave the Q set to the default. I'll play this. We've just added a little bit of air here. We don't want to over accentuate that as we're really looking for the hard hitting low end of this. Next, I really like that beater, right? So what I want to do is select the 3rd EQ point here, and I'm going to do a frequency sweep. A frequency sweep is by over exaggerating within the EQ and then sweeping left to right to find the frequency that you want to modify. So as I play this, I'm looking for the sound of the beater that I want to affect. After I find it, then I'll bring this back down to taste, right? So. So maybe around here, 2.4, somewhere around here, right? I'll dial this back down, keep it at 2.4, maybe bring this up about 3 dB. And again, maybe even in the 4th EQ point, let's put this at 1.5. We don't need a whole lot of air. And of course I did that incorrectly. 1.5. There we go. So we don't need too much air in this, and I'm going to play it both with the EQ and without. Now that kick is sounding like a club banger. Guys, I hope you like this audio tutorial. Stay tuned for more on the channel, right? Anyways, have a great weekend, and until next time, I'm out.